S&B Monthly is a show about two sisters-in-law who share their love of books. Sometimes they read together, sometimes not. Sometimes horror, but mostly smut. They also spend a lot of time on book talk, fangirling over hockey players, and farming in Stardew Valley. Every month, they review and recommend the books they've read, and chat about other fun topics too. Don't worry, they won't spoil anything. But be warned, the show is not for kids, or for anyone who may be offended by horror or sex talk, or both. Looking at you, Mom. Hail and well met, adventurers. Welcome back to episode 4 of S&B Monthly, the best, worst book club. Actually, it's the best, worst book club this month. I'm your co-host, Beck.
And I'm Stephanie.
You're just going to let me get away with a hail and well met?
I liked it.
Okay. I just assumed because we read so many fantasy this month that it fit.
It is. It's fitting. It's fitting for sure.
I would like to extend a very special welcome to people that have reached out to us. Colleen, Jackie, Tavika, Melissa, and Crowe.
And if we missed anyone, please let us know so we can give you a shout out next month.
I'm also mad at you for not correcting my pronunciation of Adeline last month.
Okay.
I went back and I re-listened to my horrible pronunciation of it, and I think it comes from I just want her to be Adelaide from Over the Garden Wall, but it's Adeline.
I'm so sorry. So I have I always think I'm like, oh my gosh, I must have read that book wrong the whole time when I heard you say it. Like I just assume I was the one saying it wrong.
Like
So I'm
Hermione.
like, oh no, it was me. Yeah, exactly. So I was like, oh,
Is that how it's pronounced? Oh no.
I know. I'm like, I read that whole book wrong. I've been talking about it, saying
I've been telling
it
people about it.
Yeah, read this. And people go,
Oh.
no. So I didn't know. So I apologize.
It's fine. I cringed at myself, so I had to correct it.
Oh, that's fine. We're good. So I guess I'm gonna start off with
Sure.
one of my reads. I read Dark Notes by Pam Godwin, and I had mentioned that at the end of our last episode. So it was a dark romance. It's 490. The trigger warnings are teacher-student relationship, abuse, violence, rape, and cheating. So it's pretty subject heavy. I will go into this book, but if you do feel like you want to read it, mind the trigger warnings. It's a pretty heavy read when it comes to. So the story follows Ivory, a talented pianist who has a plan to escape her abusive life and pursue her musical dreams. However, she faces one obstacle. Emmerich, I don't know how to say that. Marceau?
Marceau?
Yeah. That's how I said it. Her new teacher, who is also her master, her obsession, and her music. Emmerich is a ruthless and demanding man who takes what he wants from Ivory, but also pushes her to achieve her potential. The relationship is risky, passionate, and complicated.
So, what did you like about it?
Okay, it was written well, and I really was intrigued by Ivory's story. It was very traumatic, but you really did feel for her because the author was really good at conveying how she felt, what she went through. And it's hard to read the things she's been through because it's not really a realistic story per se, but like that trauma has happened to people, and it was written. I hate to say it, like it was written well. It sounds bad. I don't mean like it's good, but you know what I mean. Like it was written well. It's kind of me to explain because I'm not saying that like I enjoyed that, but yeah,
like it tackled the subject matter like with finesse, or
yes,
okay.
It did, and there was spice in it. It was good. There was a but, and I'll get to that later in the dislikes. And the book does have a happily ever after, which I did want, especially for her because her story is awful, and I would hate it to not have a happily ever after for her. And then there's a but, and I'll get to that. Although I personally think Emmerich is kind of a creep at times, he does have redeeming moments, which is certainly needed in this book, or else I would have just completely hated him. But he'll have his moments where the other things happen.
And then
and you're like, oh. Yeah, it does a lot of that. I thought it was pretty fast paced. I read it quicker than I thought I was going to, and the story did wrap up well. I did like the ending.
What didn't you like?
Oh, yeah. This is definitely personal preference. So for the spice, I don't like spanking. It's just no matter how it's described, it's just so corny. Like I don't know. I can't with the spanking. It
No,
makes me laugh. Like I'm like, this is weird and it's so corny. Like you can't write it.
especially with the age gap. I feel
Yeah,
like that's even worse.
that's like a
Yeah.
creep, right? And Ivory, she has a severe traumatic history. And the fact that like into this like spanking, and I mean it's immediate. It's not like he eases her into it. It's like boom, and it's like, dude, this girl could have like a PTSD episode any minute. But that didn't happen in the book. She liked it, but it was just hard. I don't know, reading about her past and what she's been through. I mean, there's rape there. There's all kinds of things there, and it's like, how is she enjoying this? Like, I don't know. That kind of kept going into my brain. Like after
Like it
everything
was
she's
hard
been through.
to convince yourself that this was actually
Yeah,
something she could possibly like.
yeah, and I like it's clear, and it doesn't say she doesn't like it. She is into it. I don't know. It was a little much, and he's a dom. Emmerich is a dom, which is fine. But I just couldn't get past her traumatic history and that type of sex play being enjoyable for her after everything she's been through. It kind of made me cringe at times because it's like, and I mean, the book does not. I don't want people to think like she felt that way because in the book she's like, yeah, spank me, and
Right.
but it was just I couldn't. It's almost like a Stockholm syndrome type thing, or she. I don't know. I just didn't. It was just the way it just went straight into that type of sex play was to me like, ugh, I don't know. And the student teacher romance, I knew what I was getting into. So yes, there is an age gap, of course, and it did feel ick at times, for sure, because she is so young and impressionable and has been through so much. It's like, this isn't a real person, it's fictional, but in my head, I'm like, oh my god, like is she just doing this because she has a complex, or I'm just it was just so hard for me to like wrap my head around her enjoying all this stuff after being raped over and over and everything else she had been through. It was really hard to, I guess I kind of would have rathered it been a little bit not so hardcore because I felt bad for her, like god, but she enjoys it in the book. So there's
Yeah, but like I feel like there could have been, I don't know, like a different storyline if that was like her enjoyment, maybe.
Yeah, or like eased into it maybe. Like it didn't start off that way. As far as my recommendation goes, I gave it 3 stars. It wasn't a bad book. Plot and everything was pretty good. Trigger warnings are extremely important. She has been through it. If you have any issues or are triggered by sexual trauma, rape, etc., don't read it. It's very heavy when it comes to that. And so overall I gave it 3 stars, 4 spice and 1 eye roll because I just can't.
You didn't give it an eye roll for her name being Ivory and she's a pianist?
Well, her father was a pianist as well, and that's why he did it. So yeah, it makes sense.
Okay.
Yeah.
Does it have dual perspective at all?
It is both. Yeah.
So last time we met, I was reading American Gods by Neil Gaiman. I'm going to go ahead and spoil my rating right off the bat because this was a 5-star for me, so I might talk about it for a while. Also, it was a chunky boy. It's 675 pages, fantasy fiction. The trigger warnings for this is adultery, death, incarceration, murder, prostitution, racism, violence, gore, sex, old man nipples, and supernatural horror.
Old man nipples. Woo.
So I'll get into that,
Oh,
but
I'm
like
sure.
it was just jarring. Still a 5-star. The book follows Shadow. He is an ex-convict. In the beginning of the book, he is getting out of prison. He actually gets released early because his wife passes, so he has to go to the funeral. Both his wife and his best friend pass, so he doesn't really have anything holding him to the town that he was living. So he becomes a bodyguard of a mysterious man named Mr. Wednesday. Together, they travel across the country, meeting various manifestations of the old gods, So that's any of the gods that have been worshipped previously. There's a lot of like lore and mythology that goes into this book, and I really appreciated that. They have reached America because immigrants have preyed to them over the centuries, but they have lost their power and influence due to the decline of their worshippers because most people are going to the new gods. The new gods being technology, media, consumerism, and all those fun new things that exist. There's like a line in the book that TV is becoming, like, media is a god because people offer their time to it, basically. So it's really like an interesting idea.
Yeah, that's interesting, actually.
Yeah, it's really cool. So what I did like, obviously, I'm a big mythology person. I love any story, like any creation story. I love any, like, learning about any of the gods. And the way that he modernized them into like modern America was amazingly done. I wouldn't say that, I don't think this is my first Neil Gaiman book. I did read Norse mythology by him, but this is the first like original novel by him that I have read, and he's such a good author. Mount Rushmore was in it, which I am from South Dakota, so that was a big plus for me. Shadow is just a perfect himbo. I think the gay scene was really, really, really well done. It was a quick snippet of a situation, and like I didn't feel icky or gross about it at all. So I feel like sometimes it can be like a stage, or like it's done to like show, but I feel like it was weaved into the story well enough that like you're just like, oh, it's a gay relationship. That's great.
That's good. It wasn't like over the top. Like,
Right.
yeah. Yeah, I understand that for sure.
The reveal of who Mr. Wednesday is was just outstanding. If you, I don't want to give any spoilers because I felt like that was such a big turning point of the book, but you get a lot of hints as to who he is. And if you have any, like, if you have learned anything about mythology, or if you've like, I don't know, taken a mythology class, like you would understand who he is pretty quickly. But the payoff of not knowing, like I almost want you to go in not knowing because it was so good.
I need to read it.
You really should. It's not Kindle Unlimited, unfortunately. So the various descriptions of things that he would write was beautiful. Like, for example, Shadow ends up being in Wisconsin for a little bit, and the description of winter, like, for example, he said, the wind was ruffling the surface of the lake, making waves tipped with whitecaps, which seemed to Shadow to be tiny hands reaching out for him. Like, who does that? Who comes up with those things? Like, he must have sat down and just thought about it for a while.
Just one sentence, and so beautiful.
Right? And then
Yeah.
there was also like funny bits in between, because obviously it's this huge epic story about like a battle between gods. But then like there's like these little moments of being funny. But what I didn't like, there was multiple, I think I counted like 5. And again, I think it's just because I'm nitpicky, but there's so many scenes of describing nipples. It wasn't necessarily just the old man nipples that got me, but like there was like a few of the goddesses too. Like you could see her nipples through her like dress or something. I'm like, I don't think this is necessary at this moment. But aside from that, like it was great. 5 stars.
For you to be
okay, write this down. Yeah.
Sorry, so 5 stars.
Yeah, so I fucking loved it. I think I'm actually going to start probably reading more of him. He actually wrote Coraline, which is pretty awesome.
That is awesome.
There's a bunch of like Good Omens he's written, a bunch of different things. So I think I will start adding him into the rotation, kind of like I do for T. Kingfisher, just so I don't want to do it all at once, because I tend to do that. Like when I find an author, I just kind of like go through the entire works, but I don't want to do this time because obviously we're doing a show now, so it's not always the most interesting, but definitely look out for him in the future.
Nice.
There is actually spice in it. There are like 3 scenes total of spicy situations, and it's not necessarily like smutty, it's just that they happen, which is, I don't know, pretty cool. Like, I wasn't expecting
Yeah.
it, and for a man writing it,
Yeah, a nice little treat.
it wasn't gross.
Yeah,
Yeah,
for sure.
I would absolutely recommend it. There are really heavy scenes that you might want to be cautious of. Like, there is a lengthy description of an autopsy where the person performing it does take a couple of nibbles of some of the parts. So be wary of that. There is a chapter about, like a full chapter, about 2 African children being sold off to slavery. So you get like the boat ride, them being taken, like forced apart. There's a scene about 2 African children being like having to compete with food, like dogs with food in their trough. So it was kind of gross. I mean, I think being a white woman, it's hard to say I think that it was well done, but for it being a touchy subject.
Well, like the ugly truth of some of the things that did happen.
Right, because it is a story about America. So you do get immigrant stories, and unfortunately that did happen.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, you got to include it. The good make that situation pretty.
No.
So I can appreciate that, or like try to ignore it, or like we just won't. No, I mean, I'm interested. I want to read it now.
You absolutely should.
I think I should. I've been getting more into fantasy lately.
Yeah, I noticed.
This is you. Your influence. No, but I used to always be like, "Ugh," but it's not what I thought it was, right? So I was just
Yeah.
thinking, I just, yeah, I'm really starting to really fun. Especially, it's more fun to read than to watch, in my opinion. If he goes.
That is interesting that you bring that up, because it is also a show. I believe it was on Stars.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and I would say the aesthetic of the show was really well done. I think the casting was well done. It just ended so abruptly because it didn't get picked up again. So like it ended in a part where you think it's going to continue, and then you're just,
floating.
Right. And like obviously I know how it ends, but the show deviates enough that you're like, what?
Oh,
But
no.
why?
Yeah. Wait, don't stop.
Right.
Wow. Yeah, I'm definitely interested. Oh, it's our together book.
That's why I said best worst book club, because we read 2 of the same books this month.
We did.
And I read a book that you have previously read. 3 of our books, so we both have,
read.
Yes.
Just not
opinions
necessarily
about,
at the same time. Yeah, for sure. So the next book we'll be talking about is A God of Wrath and Lies by K.M. Moronova. Sure.
Yeah.
We both read it, so super exciting. 358 pages. It's a dark fantasy romance. There is trigger warnings for animal death, gore, violence, and sexually explicit scenes. The book follows the protagonist, Elodie, who suffers from trauma and nightmares after losing her dog, and she gets involved with 3 mysterious males who are connected to the realm of the gods. So first we'll go over what we liked. So Beck, what did you like?
I liked that there was a unique magic system in it. The various creatures she created, I don't think I've ever seen it in any previous books or any fantastical worlds other than what she has created. So I think it is like her own fantasy world. And then the atmosphere of the book, it was very dark and haunting. Like I felt like I was in like a dark forest the entire time. It felt like it was like a dream almost. Like the themes of grief and healing were done in a way that felt very dreamy. I also thought that the twists were very well done. Discovering who people are and what their role is was very interesting to me. What did you like?
So I liked, I wrote, first of all, I want me and Eostrix. I love the way they were described with these wings and these horns. And I don't know, every time I saw it in my movie brain,
Your brain movie?
I was like, yeah, my brain movie. Oh, brain movie. It was just like, oh, yeah, I like that. So they were my favorite characters. It was very magical. I saw the world as magical. I loved the world building in it. I liked the way she would describe the scenes you were in, the setting. I think she did well with that. I did like the way it was written as far as just everything you were looking at and seeing, and the creatures. The creatures were really cool. I liked the pine hollows. Those were the like animals, right?
The wolves, yeah.
Yeah. I thought they were pretty cool too. I wanted one. No.
Yeah. Well,
I think it wrapped up well. I did want to read the next book in the series. I wasn't like, oh my god, I gotta read it now. But I did want to know what was gonna happen. I was curious, and
yeah, it left you on enough of like a cliffhanger to be like, okay, I can read the next
okay.
one.
Yeah, it wasn't like the last book we read. What was the one we read last month?
Her Soul to Take.
That there's another one. I didn't care. I couldn't care
Yeah.
less. I was like, nope. Mm-mm. So anyway,
You go first. What didn't you like?
okay. So the beginning to me moved way too fast. It was very like choppy and like all of a sudden, and I'm like, well, I need to know the why and how she got there. I know how she got there, obviously, but it's like why her, why that time. I was put off by that. Now I will say in advance that does get explained more in the next book. But so I was a little put off by that when I started the book. It was just, it jumps right in, and I was like, well, how, why, her, what's going on? You know what I mean? Like I was kind of like, this is weird. She's just there. Okay. So I was a little worried at first I wasn't going to like it. I would have liked a little bit more spice. There was a lot of times where I'm like, ooh, it's coming. And then it didn't happen. And I'm like, oh, because it would have been like perfect. Like there's so many times. And I get it. You know,
like
a slow
kicking your
burn's
feet.
nice sometimes. But I'm like, I am. I'm like, ooh. And then I'm like, oh. Wah, wah. So I wanted a little bit more. But the story and the plot were good. I was just expecting a little more of that. But yeah, the only thing was really just the beginning weirded me out. I'm like, what? And I was a little confused at first. I kind of started getting the hang of the way it was written, and I'm like, okay, I get it. And I looked at, we talked about a couple of the things that we didn't enjoy that you're going to bring up. So yeah, because I agreed with you on everything you disliked about it as well. What didn't you like?
Yeah, so piggybacking off of what your first dislike was, I think that's what I meant by it feels like fan fiction to me. It just kind of like, I feel like I could have been reading it on an archive of our own, which you have no idea what that is. But it definitely feels like the way she writes, like how she describes things, the very abruptness of between this scene and then this scene and then this scene. And then the confusing, like missing bits all felt very like fan fiction to me. But that's not to say that fan fiction is bad. It can be very good. I mean, obviously, like I partake in it. I find myself on AO3 every once in a while when I don't have a book to read. There are obviously very cringy fan fiction out there, and that's because like rule. Do you know what Rule 34 is?
I had to look that up the other day because I had no freaking idea. I'm like, oh yeah, that. And then I Googled it.
So it's basically the idea that if it exists, there's porn of it, and that it proves itself true over and over and over again. Like there is anything from like the obvious My Little Pony, which is very weird, but it even extends to like Garfield. I don't. Yeah, I sent you that one.
Yeah, you did.
If anybody's curious, it's called the Garfield Monstrosity. You can look it up at your own discretion. I would not. It's gross, but it's there. But there's also cute like Stardew Valley fan fiction. So it definitely has its place. Like if you aren't wanting to be an author of like great works, if you can only do like a chapter every month, it's a good place to put a story out. And I don't want to be too mean about her art or her writing style, because I do feel this is her first ever novel, and that is amazing. Like as much as I would want to, I have never written a book. I've never published a book. I've never put it out there. So like, I congratulate her for this. It's just, it was a little clunky at times, I feel like. And it was really confusing at times too. Like I don't know what's going on. Like she was hurt all of a sudden, and like I don't know how she got hurt. But again, I don't know if that was purposely done, like because she's hurt, so she's confused. So maybe like,
Oh, I don't know, but yeah, I get the confusion that you
yeah.
had. It wasn't completely lost, but there was some things where you're like, what?
What just
Yeah.
happened? Oh,
Yeah.
okay, got it.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. I got that too. I didn't know this was her first
Yeah.
novel. That's not bad.
No, right?
I mean, she's gonna get into her stride for sure.
Well, I do think the second book was much better.
It was. I agree. I agree with you.
I didn't, again, nitpicky. I always have to nitpick at least one thing. I don't like when you use male as in writing. Male, female. Just use man, woman. I don't, again, it could be that they're like different races or whatever, but like he's got a dick. Like it's fine. Like
Yeah. Yeah.
And we know this because she touched it. So like,
oh yeah. Male and female is just very
it feels icky to me almost.
Yeah, and it's not it doesn't like flow. It's like so textbook. Like you know, I don't know. It's just very
It almost feels like an alpha male thing to do, right? Like females can't do whatever. So I don't like it being done the opposite way either, I guess.
Yeah.
I also really hated how she referred to Aurelius as like the dude with amethyst eyes. Like you could have just used his name. Like I understand there's 3 dudes, but I can tell the difference between the 3 of them without using the color of your eyes.
Yeah, and it was brought up too much.
Too much.
Okay. I remember once it was like 3 times in like a page.
Well, and there's like different descriptors of them too, right? Like he wears golden armor, so could have used that.
Their hair, their wings,
right? Like Ren doesn't even have wings, so
right. Yeah,
but I don't know. Yeah. I just felt like that was very almost fan fiction to me too, because a lot of the time in fan fiction, they use like the color of their eyes and orbs together. Like his blue orbs met mine. It's like, ugh, why?
Yeah, funny.
I also didn't particularly feel a pull towards Ren. I feel like it could have been a why choose instead with just Castian and Aurelius.
Yeah, he was just kind of there. I mean, I know what he did in the beginning and everything, but I feel like, yeah.
Who just follows a dude into the forest, by the way?
That's the thing. That's the thing in the beginning where I was like, what? Because it was just, boom.
Why? Yeah. It's like, oh, okay. I'm not going to say bye to mom and dad or anything. I'm just going to...
Yeah. I'm just going to go.
No.
I'm just going to follow this guy because he's pretty good looking. So obviously...
I think he's pretty hot.
Yeah. I'm going to follow...
He's got a cool wolf.
Follow him. So would you recommend it overall?
I mean, I gave it a 3. Like, I didn't hate it. I didn't love it. I don't want to be too mean on it because it is her debut book. There was only like 1 or 2 like half explicit scenes. So it being marketed as like a spicy book didn't quite pay off. But I mean, yeah, like if you're a vibe reader, yeah, like if you vibe with fantasy and unique magic systems, absolutely. I think too, I did have a pretty heavy book hangover after American Gods, so I don't think it was necessarily the fairest thing to read next.
Right. I enjoyed it. Fantasy is new for me, so newer for me, and I feel like it was fun to read about another world with unique creatures. Of course, I'm brand new to this, so I gave it 3 stars. If you're a new fantasy reader like me, you would probably enjoy it because it's not too overwhelming or complicated. I did not know how to pronounce Eostrix. Eostrix? Yeah?
Yeah.
I kept wanting to say Eostrix. I don't know why. So
I think I said Estrix a couple times too.
Yeah. So sometimes with fantasy, I can't because it's just too, like, I don't even know how you put those letters together. And then I get so sidetracked with like that that I
Mhm.
can't get past it. And it's like, at least these words, like, even if I'm saying them wrong in my head, like, whatever, you know what I mean? It was still
Mhm.
easy to get through. So I think if you're new to fantasy, I think it's fun. It's not a lot of spice or anything. I gave it, yeah, like I said, 3 stars, 2 spice. It wasn't very spicy. I think I was confusing some of the things that happened in the second book with the first one. Because there's
Yeah.
more in the second one. And I gave it 1 eye roll because the eye color thing was driving me nuts. Because the other guy has red eyes, and she brings that up. And like I think she's just trying to like, yeah, but
Be
there's other
descriptive.
things. There's other things. I know
Yeah.
what color their eyes are, sweetheart. Like you've done told me every page in this book. But she did good. This is her first book. That's amazing. I mean, good for her.
Yeah,
Good for
absolutely.
her, because this is, who am I to judge? I mean, we talk about writing our own one day, so maybe.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I think that would be fun to do.
Yeah, like a double perspective, and you're one character and I'm the other. It'd be
Yeah.
super fun.
I think too, I would almost want to like leave descriptions out of it. So like whoever is reading it can just come up with whatever they want.
Oh, that's fun. Yeah.
So we did both read the next book too, because I don't know, I felt more compelled with this month's book than last month's book to actually like complete the story. It's not all the way completed yet, I should say. There's a third book, but I did want to know more of the story, which is better than I can say about Her Soul to Take. So the second book is called A God of Death and Rest. It is 322 pages. The trigger warnings are depression, mental illness, morally gray characters, death, physical violence, gore, and explicit sexual scenes. More so this book than the last book. It follows the story of Elodie, who is kidnapped by a specific goddess, trying to reveal the location of her former lover. Along the way, she discovers secrets about the world that she finds herself in, as well as herself, and forms bonds with other male gods who can help her escape and restore the balance of the magic system. What did you like about this one?
Well, there was a little more spice. So
Something to look
that
forward
was
to.
that was nice. A little more presence. I'm like, ooh, here we go. No. It was good too, because it's fitting. It's not a lot of plot, so it's not. It was good. It was good. I like how they put it in finally, because I was waiting the last book and didn't get it.
I was promised sex.
I know. What is this? No, I'm just kidding. I liked finally learning more of the why and how, as far as like her parents being involved, more of her backstory. I do appreciate a backstory. Want to know a lot of the questions that I had in the first book were answered in the second book for the most part. There was some pretty good twists and turns. There were some things I did not see coming. I was like, oh
shit.
Yeah. So I'm horrible at like trying to figure it out. Like if somebody's like, there's a twist, I'm like, ooh, well, and that is like my sole purpose, is like, I'm gonna figure this out before the big reveal. And it kind of ruins it sometimes, because I have figured it out plenty of times. And like Adam, I'll like whisper, this is what's going to happen, and I'll tell him, and then it happens, and he just gives me a dirty look. I'm like, told you. But I'm like looking for it. But this book, had some twists that like I definitely didn't see coming, so I appreciated that. And again, with the descriptions of the world and everything, very just magical and dreamlike. And I always pictured like a fog and like a just light shining through trees. Like just the way I pictured it was just so magical and beautiful. And I think she describes everything really well. So what did you like about it?
The same as you. It was very atmospheric. Felt very tied into. I felt a lot more tied into the world this time around than the first book. Again, same unique magic system. I thought was very well done. I thought the payoff of what had happened, or what was happening, the whole mystery was very well executed. And then I knew going in that there was going to be torture scenes, but it was actually less gross and descriptive than What Lurks Between the Fates with Harper L. Woods. And I appreciated that, because I don't think I could have done that again.
I think that book's on my TBR.
Well, you want to start with. Oh, I don't know. I would have to look it up. It's
yeah,
the
I think
third
there's
book
like
out
3
of them.
books.
Mhm.
Yeah. Okay. I think I have that on my
You're
my
just
TBR,
getting
'cause it's
into fantasy now, huh?
romance, dark romance fantasy.
And I also noticed a reverse harem situation is brewing for
Yes.
you.
I know, because I may be a married woman,
But why
but
choose?
my brain's a little slut.
I know.
No, I'm just kidding.
Make that a sticker.
I just like, yeah, for real. Let's make a sticker. But that's how I feel, because I don't know. I just love reading this stuff. I'm like, I can't get enough of it. I'm really liking the fantasy, which is so surprising because I did not think, not something I ever thought I'd dislike, but I'm like, I ain't going to get into it. And then I'm slowly getting into it. So you're the influence. So
Yeah,
thank
I
you.
think that like fantasy can sometimes come off as like almost stuffy, like especially with like the Lord of the Rings, or it can come off almost silly sometimes. So
Yeah, what I pictured and what it is are very different
yes.
for sure. Now, these crazy books with like maps, and I don't think I could get into that. There's one that was real popular on Book Talk, something orange, and it's big. Orange.
Oh, a Court of Thorns and Roses?
No, not that one. It was something with an orange. I swear. I'd have to look it up.
Eh.
Anyways, it just seemed overwhelming to me. No, the court one, I sort of want to read that one because they're making a mini series or a movie or something or a show. So I'm kind of like intrigued, like, ooh, maybe I should read it. But it's a lot. It's kind of daunting to look at.
And it's not even
That's a
on Kindle
commitment.
Unlimited.
It's not?
No.
Ooh,
You have to pay for that shit.
see, nope.
Unless that
Yeah.
updated. Hold on.
Oh, it's the Priory of the Orange Tree.
Hey, excuse me, the what?
The prior. How do you says it?
I don't know. I don't even know what you're talking about.
It was all over Book Talk. The Priory? I can't even say the damn title. Or it's probably just a normal word and I'm an idiot. Priory. Priory?
Priori? Yeah, maybe.
Of the Orange Tree by Samantha Shannon. Anyways, it was all over Book Talk for a while, and it looks really thick, and everyone's like, oh, it's the best fantasy book I ever read. There's maps and shit. I'm like, see, that's too much, I think, for me. I'm not ready for that. Maybe one day. It ain't today. Like,
it's almost homework at that point.
Yeah, like I want to have fun.
And if I'm on a Kindle, I'm not going to go all the way back to the first page.
No, it would be probably a book you'd have to like get yourself a hard copy.
Yeah.
Yeah, or yeah, a physical copy, sorry. Yeah. But anyways, there I go again. Look at me go. Off on a tangent. But yes, I do like fantasy now. I'm so
Congratulations.
Sorry.
Welcome.
Yeah, it's good. Did you go through everything that
yeah. What didn't you like about it?
I can't. Okay, so that's weird about this book. I can't really pinpoint what it is, but I did feel like something's missing. I don't know what it is. Like when I wrote, like when you're cooking like sauce, and it tastes good, but you're like, it needs a little more, and you can't put your finger on it. Like,
yeah,
that's kind of how I feel with this book. Like, I didn't really like. It's a little bit confusing, sure, but I'm like, there's something that's not giving it that oomph. Like, there's something that's not there. I can't pinpoint what it is because it's not bad. It's just there's something that's I'm not very I am invested. I want to read the next book, sure, but I'm not heavily invested, and I don't know why.
Yeah,
maybe it's connection with the characters or the story. I don't know, because it's not bad. It's just, do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I felt like some of the characters were very flat too. There are some characters I just did not like whatsoever. There's characters that I really, really did like, and then I ended up not liking them. So, and then I don't know. It felt, yeah, you're right. Like something was missing. But maybe it's like a stage, like because obviously the first book had a lot missing. The second book has less. Maybe the third book is just going to be like,
bring it all together. Yeah, for sure. Perhaps. So what? And that was the same. So you didn't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the same as the first book too. Like, it was confusing at times. Like, things would happen and I just didn't know why. Like, how did we find ourselves
Right.
here?
Yeah.
I didn't quite understand the like the mean goddesses why. Like, I didn't quite get why she was the way that she was. Yeah.
Oh, because she wants her. Yeah.
Like, she was evil, but then, like, not really, but then she's evil, and then, well, I could feel bad for her, but I don't know.
Yeah, but she would, like, let her do her thing, too. So it was weird.
It was very
It's like,
weird.
how are you going from, like, this to that?
And
that is kind of a weird one,
It wasn't really that bad. Like, she just, slit your wrist a couple times. It's fine.
Yeah, it's fine. Drained your blood.
Yeah.
It's fine. You're fine.
You're fine. You
just
heal.
Go drink some more.
Yeah.
Calm down.
So again, I gave it 3 stars, just like the last one. I didn't hate it. I didn't love it. Liked it better than the other one, the last book that we read. But I gave it 3 spices because it was more than the last one. Less eye rolls too, like maybe 2.
I liked it, and I would recommend it if you read the first one. It's worth reading the second. Like I had said earlier, a lot of unanswered questions that I hope would be answered were, for the most part. And I will be reading the 3rd book. I do want to know what happens. Again, I'm not like, oh my god, cliffhanger, what am I going to do till it comes out? But I do want to know. So, right. I think I read it comes out sometime in September, but I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that's what I read. Overall, 3.5 stars, because I gave it another 0.5 because I did like it better than the first one. I like this one better. 3 spice and 1 eye roll because of the eye color.
Oh yes,
the red eyes and the purple. I know.
Got it. Thank you.
Yeah, but I commend her. This is her first novel's also a series. That can't be easy. So I think she'll find her stride, and I look forward to see what she has in the future. I think she'll do great things.
Yeah, I think she does have a different series going too at the moment.
Oh, okay.
I don't know. I would have to look into it. I know I see it on TikTok a lot, so maybe it's something that we can look into.
Yeah, the potential's there.
Right.
So
yeah,
for sure.
This is where we would put an ad break if we actually had one. But we posted on our social medias that we do have a few announcements to make. But we wanted to show our gratitude for our first 10 Spotify subs. And it's amazing that even we got more than 2 because I subbed and you subbed. And it's also my birthday month. So yeah, we decided to put together a giveaway of 3 handmade shirts and some handmade stickers made by myself that will be on each of our platforms. So we have a TikTok, we have a Facebook, and we also have an Instagram. So the post will tell you all the rules and regulations because they're all very particular about giveaways. So it will be posted as soon as this goes out. Entry will end on July 28th, midnight Pacific Standard Time, and we will announce the winners on the August 1st episode. We will contact you via the platform that you won on. So if you won on Instagram, I will direct message you on Instagram, Facebook, direct message through Facebook, etc. We're also hoping that we can do this for all of our milestones. We just hit 10, so hopefully we can go and do it on 25. And also, instead of just a giveaway, we also do want to show like a token of our appreciation. So I would love to be able to make like a keychain or something for the first people that did subscribe. Spotify doesn't let us know who it is. So if you could please email us at monthlysnb@gmail.com with your mailing address, that would be fantastic. I would love to send you something in the mail, but please be honest, don't cheat. If we get, like, I can count to 10. If it's anything more than that, then I know somebody's lying. But yeah, we would love to do that. So yeah.
Also, we decided to do one more show a month, but on the more chill side. So it'll come out the third Thursday of every month, called Thirsty. See what we did there?
Yeah.
Tomes and Tea. And we'll be discussing things like bad Kindle Unlimited books, our rating scale, our tea of the day, because we will be drinking tea
Yes.
while doing it.
We'll
So
be
we're going
very
to be
fancy.
talking about, yes, we're going to be fancy. And to clarify, the regular month wrap up will still be the first Tuesday of every month, with an additional episode on the third Thursday of the month. So we just felt like we have more to talk about. So mid-month would be kind of a nice place to just discuss some fun things, kind of what we're reading and all the other good things that we have coming up, though.
Yeah.
Really excited about it.
A little more cozy and less like, this is what I read.
Yeah.
You should read it too.
Just,
yeah.
Yeah. More of us going off. It's like it'll be like a tangent.
It's going to be the melons tangent all over again.
Yes. Why don't you like melons?
It's perfect.
That was funny. So the next book I am going to discuss is The Troop by Nick Cutter. And it was 407 pages. It's a horror. And the trigger warnings are violence, animal cruelty, children in danger. And it's pretty heavy. So freaking good. Anyways, the story follows Scoutmaster Tim Riggs and his troop by 5 teenage who go on a camping trip to a remote island. Their peaceful weekend is interrupted by a stranger who arrives on a boat. Looking emaciated and hungry, Tim, who is also a doctor, tries to help the man, but soon realizes that he is carrying a bioengineered feeds on human flesh and can spread through contact or ingestion. The stranger dies, but not before infecting Tim and unleashing the worm on the island. The boys must survive not only the parasite, but also the madness and violence that it causes among them. So good. Okay.
What did you like?
I love the way it was written. So you are reading the story like as it goes, right? Like as it's happening real time, I guess. But you do figure out that that's just how you're reading it, because between some of the chapters there'll be an article or about what's happening or what had happened already. But it kind of gives you hints on where it's going. Oh man, I loved that. So you'd be reading a chapter and then there'd be like an article that was in the newspaper about the island. And so it kind of, there's a little bit of back and forth, but not confusing in any way. It's just kind of cool because it's like little hints. You're like, oh, so, kind of know what's coming, but you don't know exactly what's coming, to where it's like, oh,
it doesn't give it away. Yeah.
No. I mean, it not completely, no. So it was well done. It was cool. I really liked how the author did that. And the whole premise of the book is just amazing, and it's believable to an extent. I could see something like this being made, and for the reasons it was made. And like, of course, it's supposed to be like a thing to lose weight, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you find out like the military was involved because
of reasons.
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't want to. The military gets involved, but it's not like a military book where it's like blah blah. It's just it's in there for good reason too. It made it, oh god, so good. And it was a page turner for sure. It was gross, vile, descriptive, haunting, and I loved it. I love the way he described the worms. You could just see it, and it was disgusting and fascinating all at the same time. This book gave me, so how like when you're reading I don't know, I don't always like have a physical reaction when I'm reading a book. Haunted did it. It happens a couple times.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, hand over mouth, wincing, shaking my head, like I was doing all these things, which is usually I just read it and I'll be reading some crazy stuff and there's just not that I'm not like feeling it or but I just, it's not enough to where I'm like, oh, shock. But
Right.
this did it. I was wincing, and I was telling my husband, like, oh my God, read this real quick. I think he was getting a little annoyed with me. He was like, what? I'm like, just read this. Pause your game. Come read this. But please, it's so good. And then he would read it and just look at me like I'm a psycho. I'm like, oh my God, right? I think I even sent you like a
Yes.
little, I'm like, oh God, Maggie, read this. It's disgusting. I love it. It was just really good. And a book that can make me like react in that way. Well done. Like Haunted by Chuck Palahniuk.
Yes.
Did that to me a few times where I'm just like, oh my God.
I have heard that he has what is his name? Nick Cutter has been compared to Palahniuk a lot. Is it?
Oh, okay.
Like, is it similar writing styles?
I think Palahniuk's a little deeper. Nick Cutter's very like, this is what's happening to the point. And I think Palahniuk, it's a lot more of a thoughtful read. Does that make sense?
Yes.
To you? Okay. There's underlying shit going on.
And there's like quotes that I would get like tattooed, in like a Palahniuk book.
And there's things in like a Palahniuk book I think you could read several times and find something new each time. Like, oh shit, I didn't think about that. Like little hidden Easter eggs and things like that, where I didn't see that with Nick Cutter. Great author, not to say anything bad about him. It's just I think their writing styles are a little different. But
got it.
Yeah, in my opinion. Still, excellent book. The only things I really didn't like is, okay, so the very end is a little confusing. I have my theories, and I can't, unfortunately, divulge because it'll totally give everything away. But I'm like, okay, I think I could be wrong. I really want you to read it if you can, because I want to know what you think. But
Jeff keeps asking me when I'm going to read Worms.
Why don't he read Worms?
That's what I asked him.
It's so good.
He's like, please, can you read Worms and then describe it to me? I'm like, why? Just read it.
Can you read Worms and describe it to me?
I want you to tell me about it. I'm like, oh, didn't Steph already tell you?
I've read what other people like assume the ending is. There's a reason why I don't agree with all of those theories, and we will discuss maybe another time. But because I don't want to give anything away.
Right.
The animal cruelty in particular, there is a couple. It's in there a couple times. There's one though. It's so rough, and it's in there for a reason. It's not like in there for shock or anything. I get it. I get why it's in there. I do. But it's so sad.
I don't know. I don't think there's ever an excuse for animal cruelty.
Well, you gotta eat.
I know.
So, but it's so sad. It's hard, and the animal in particular. But I get it. So it's not like fucking what's that book? Cows.
Oh, yeah.
Where it's just like, and nothing against that splatterpunk, whatever. But it's just shock value at that point.
Right.
This isn't that. This is, I get why it was in there, but it still made me really sad.
That was also another question I had about this book is I feel like sometimes horror can just be shock value instead of being actually like well done or like thought out. It's just, this is gross. Read it. Was this like that?
No,
okay.
Not at all. And actually, I kind of wrote that in when I'm talking about the recommendation. I do recommend it a million times over. It's so good. Mind the triggers, as always, but it was really good. So I've seen people be disappointed in it because they're like, I read this was the scariest book and it was nasty, and it wasn't. And it's like, it's not the scariest book in the world, and it's not the most grotesque. It's definitely not splatterpunk, okay? It's not the most grotesque thing you'll ever read, but it is still, I guess, intense.
Yeah.
And like, it's scary, but not like ghosts and goblins and ghouls, it's just a little bit of body horror. But again, it's not, I mean, I've read like Dead Inside. The book will scar me for life. It's nothing. It was well done, and it's scary with a good, creepy. More creepy, intense, with a really good plot, a realistic plot, honestly. And I really enjoyed it. Just the end, I'm unsure, but I would like to discuss that one day with you. So yeah,
so read it.
So read it. No, I mean the one part, the animal cruelty part, I can let you know what kind of animal it is, and then you can decide if you want to read it or not.
Sure.
Okay, it's it's not really not giving it. It's a sea turtle.
Oh,
And sea turtles are
majestic.
they're not easy. They have thick skin and a shell.
Oh, got it.
Yeah. And so you're just reading it like and then other things happen. Let me not give it all away. That's the hardest part. That's the hardest part of the book though. But anyways, yeah, that scene's the worst in my opinion. There's some body horror in it of course. I mean, it's about a freaking worm.
Tapeworm, yeah.
Tapeworm, pretty much. Yeah. A bioengineered one. There's other animal cruelty scenes in it because when it goes back to the testing of the pill, which is in the interviews and the court and the documents and such that you see throughout the book, it was tested on animals in a laboratory.
Which happens regardless. So
yes, very graphic, very descriptive, almost eye-opening because you're reading it and you're like, this shit really happens. And it's sad. But again, like everything that's in it, it's not for no reason and it's not for shock value. It fits. So yes, although there is some hard things to read about animals and such, it's fitting, if that makes sense. It's not just there to like shock you, is what I'm getting at. So
yeah, I think I like almost overhype some of the books that you read because I think that it's just going to be too much for me, and then I end up reading them. And I'm like, oh, it's fine.
The only one's dead inside. Just
I refuse.
That's the worst book I've ever.
But Womb, when you were like, you need to read this, I'm like, okay. And then, I mean, it was gross. It was bad, but like, it wasn't like ever too much, I guess.
No, I liked Womb. I thought it was pretty good. It was gross. It was just, I think it was my first, like, one of my first books I read getting back into reading. So I was like, oh man, I never knew about these kind. This is cool. I was like, who thinks of this stuff? I love it. But overall, I'm going to give it 4 stars and no spice and no eye rolls. Excellent book, though. Really good.
I would be worried if there was spice in this one.
Yeah, no. Yeah, it's a bunch of little kids.
I believe this one is also on Kindle Unlimited now.
Yes, I believe it is too. Yeah.
You, again, got it a little too late, but it's fine.
That's okay. It's okay. It works. You have the hard copy. I sent it. I sent it back to Jeff.
Yeah.
So Jeff can read that, and you can read the Kindle.
Talking about Kindle, you will start to realize. Well, you have the app too, right, on your phone?
I do.
That there are challenges that you can complete. It was on my 2023 bingo to finish a 15 out of 15 Kindle challenge. So I read Verity to get the book talk achievement. I'm not a constant reader of Colleen Hoover, I would say. I most of the time try to avoid her, and it's not necessarily anything on her part. It's just not my vibe. But this one seems interesting because it is a psychological thriller. It is 336 pages. The trigger warnings, I don't know, do the trigger warnings give it away?
No. No. I don't think so.
So the trigger warnings are abortion, cheating, child abuse, child death, infanticide, and violence, which, okay. There is also explicit sexual scenes. Quite a lot, actually. So the story follows Lowen, a struggling writer who is hired to finish a series by a famous author named Verity. She is incapacitated after a car accident. Lowen ends up moving into Verity's house to sort through her notes and manuscripts, but she soon discovers a shocking manuscript that reveals Verity's dark secrets and twisted mind. Lowen also develops feelings for Verity's husband, Jeremy, who is still grieving the loss of his 2 twin daughters. As Lowen gets deeper into Verity's world, she begins to question everything she knows and trusts.
So what did you like about it?
It definitely kept me captivated. I read it within a weekend, so like I kept flipping through, like I needed to know like the excerpts of Verity's manuscripts. Like I needed to know what the hell was going on.
Yeah.
This is one of the only books that I actually brought to Jeff as far as like, I think this is happening and I need to let you know because like this is crazy what's happening. Can you believe it? And then he'd be like, why do you read these things? I'm like, dude.
Just humor me.
Right?
Please.
Can you just like gasp or like, oh really?
Yeah,
Like
I
anything
know.
like that. Like that's all I'm looking for, really. It's just validation.
There it is. Exactly.
It did give big. You've probably never. I don't mean to say it like that. That seems like I'm being mean. But you haven't read
No.
Rebecca, have you?
Actually, I have.
Have
No,
you?
I
Oh.
haven't. No. No,
I'm
I'm
so
just teasing you.
excited.
No,
Rebecca
I've never read it.
by Daphne du Maurier, if that's how you pronounce it. It's like it was made in like the 1930s or 40s, I want to say, and
Mhm.
it's just like I'm going on a tangent about a different book it's like a book within a book. This young girl, you never find out what her name is, by the way, which I think is so clever, marries this man that has like this huge, like he's the lord of this house, and basically his wife had died previously. Her name is Rebecca, hence the name of the book.
Mhm.
But like it almost feels like Rebecca is haunting her because she can never like live up to the expectations that she had and all of this, and it's a crazy payoff at the end, and it's very atmospheric, it's very pretty, like
Ooh.
would recommend, love Rebecca. The whole like wife situation,
Mhm.
like a younger woman moves into the house with the husband and falls in love, gave that vibe.
Mhm.
Jane Eyre is also kind of on that spectrum, but like much older.
Mhm.
And I mean, the mystery around the book definitely was intriguing. Like I liked learning what was going to happen. With that being said, what I didn't like was I thought it was weird that she brought up that she sleepwalks and it only paid off once, and it wasn't even like a good payoff.
I agreed with you on that. Yeah. You think it would be a really big part of the story.
Right.
It
If
could
you're
have
going to bring
been.
it up multiple times, like why your mom doesn't like you, then like make
Yeah.
it part of the current story that's going on.
Exactly. Just kind of randomly. Yeah, I agree with you on that.
I also didn't like the ending. I felt like, without giving it away, like I felt like it was just like apologetic almost.
Did you read the extended version?
No,
Okay.
I read the Kindle
Neither did
version.
I. And I also read Don't Even Bother Look. So I
Well,
didn't.
I mean,
I enjoyed it. I thought it was pretty good.
for being Colleen Hoover, it
Yes.
was
Yeah, I usually don't like her shit.
right.
Just but that one I think was really good.
I've read Layla by her. Absolutely fucking hated that one. Like, do not even.
No.
Which I
No.
also read for a Kindle challenge, and like I should just learn my lesson from Kindle challenges because they always
Right.
push her. But it's like I hated Layla, hated it. I gave it 3 stars because for being Colleen Hoover, it was overall an enjoyable read. I didn't love it. I didn't hate it. I did have 2 really good books this month, so maybe that kind of overshadowed some of it. Maybe if I hadn't read the really good ones, it would have been higher up. But
right.
and I think that's something that we're going to go over on Thursday, to plug it again, is I think the first episode we should go over like how we rate things, because we did have a question about that.
Yeah, definitely. Because we just did our own thing, assuming everyone gets it.
Right. If you're on Goodreads, you get it, but like if you're anybody else,
yeah, we can. Yeah, we'll definitely go over that. Sure.
Yeah, I gave it 3 spice. It wasn't like just porn with plot. It actually did have like a storyline. So 3, and then like maybe 3 eye rolls for like the sleepwalking and the, I don't know.
Yeah, there was some eye rolls there for sure. Okay, so my next read was The Never King by Nikki St. Crowe, 192 pages, so quick boy. Dark fantasy romance. If you could tell by my tone, I'm usually like, and then I read this, and
and I loved it. No.
yeah, it was so good. Not this book. No, I'm sorry. Trigger warning: mental illness, smoking, graphic rough sex, sex in public, group sex, dubcon, graphic violence, graphic language, captivity, degradation, submission, bondage, rope, spanking, blood play, spanking again,
Ugh.
blood play, choking, CNC, talk of sexual assault. They went all out. I mean, I think they just kind of repeated some of them in other words to make it sound like exciting. It's not.
No.
So, spoiler alert. Anyways,
Spoiler alert, you
so
did not like this one.
yeah, spoiler alert, it sucks. No. So, the first book in the Vicious Lost Boys series, which is a dark retelling of Peter and Wendy. It follows the story of Wendy Darling, who is kidnapped by the Never King and his lost boys on her 18th birthday as part of a curse that affects all the Darling women. She soon discovers that the Never King is not the hero she thought he was, but a ruthless and cruel leader who rules over Neverland with an iron fist. Wendy also learns that there is more to the curse than she knows, and that she has a role to play in breaking it. Ugh. Okay, what I like. So I liked the idea, right? So the Peter Pan retelling sounded really fun, so I was actually excited for it.
Mm-hmm.
I read another kind of retelling, an Alice in Wonderland retelling called Sick Fucks by Tilly Cole. Really good, by the way. But very trigger heavy. So if you read it, keep that in mind. But it was great. So I'm like, ooh, I'll do another retelling. That'll be fun. There was potential, and I'll get into that. So I give it I guess I like that because I just sad that there was no follow through with it. So I didn't like. It's like the bare minimum, if any, character development for what was going on. There was so many forbidden things happening, and like, why? Because she's hot? Okay. Like, it's not like all the Darling women were ugly mugs before her. Oh god. Anyways,
Like she's the special one?
She's special.
Oh.
She's not like other girls.
Oh.
Yeah.
Internal groan.
But she is. No.
Yeah.
And there's just no.
Make that a sticker.
You gather that she's yeah. She's okay, I would say the only thing is like she's led a promiscuous life, and her mother was a prostitute, so I guess sure.
Mm-hmm.
So the way she like looks at and talks about sex, like whatever, and she just likes to use that. She uses sex as kind of a weapon, which can make a good book. It just not this one. This ain't it. What little someone on Goodreads had commented, it seemed more like an outline of a book, and that's perfect because there was things that were in it where I'm like, God, if they would have she would have wrote this right, it would have been amazing. Because it's like they're trying to get into these girls' minds because Peter Pan believes that one of the Darling women knows where his shadow is, and he will lose everything without it. Now the thing is, once they go into the mind of the Darling woman, they go insane. They go insane after that.
Oh,
so so many good ideas, but it's like they'll just say no because they'll be like, "This is what happens," and then they screw and they screw and they screw and they screw. I'm like, no, go back. Wait, I want to know like more about that. I actually wanted. It was too much spice almost. Like you're ruining everything, you're ruining the potential here, and I liked the ideas that were in it as far as like going crazy after letting them go through your mind and all this cool shit, but it's it was not good, and it was so lacking. It made me so sad. There's 3 books in this series. I'm not going to read the other ones. It fell so flat, and it was a cliffhanger. It just felt so flat that I don't even care. I don't even care, and I think it would just make me even more mad. So would I recommend it? No. Oh, a waste of time. I do give it 2 stars, and it's lucky because the idea was so incredible.
You gave her points for trying.
Yeah, give me an A for effort, There is 4 spice. It's a very spicy book. And I gave it 4 eye rolls because she's a pick-me, and ugh.
Yes.
Yep. So
All
I
right.
hated it. I hated it. And it's all over Book Talk about how great it is. I was all excited and I'm reading it and I'm like, this is
But you read it all.
yeah.
Oh.
What? The book?
Well, yeah, I would have, I just don't
Oh,
know
I
what,
didn't DNF it.
yeah, I don't know at what point you do not finish.
Because I need to know what happens.
Oh, okay.
You ever watch a movie, it sucks, but you're like, well, I got that. I need to know what happens now. That's how I am. So I haven't DNF'd a book yet because of that.
Really?
I have to see what happens no matter how well, let me not speak too soon. I'm sure there will be one.
I'm sure.
Anyways, enough about that. I want to hear about Nettle and Bone by T. Kingfisher because we love her and I haven't read this book, so tell me about it.
We do love her, and now that you're like into fantasy, you can join the fantasy world of T. Kingfisher. I like to think that it all happens in the same like sphere, like the same world, like the Temple of the White Rat world. I don't know if this actually does, but so it's Nettle and Bone by T. Kingfisher, if you hadn't figured that out already. It is 245 pages. It is dark fantasy horror, and there are horror elements in it. Trigger warnings for this one is miscarriage, domestic abuse, and dogs made out of bones. So if you're worried about dead dogs. So after years of seeing her sisters, multiple sisters, suffer at the hands of one abusive prince, Mara, the shy, convent-raised third-born daughter, has finally realized that no one is coming to their rescue. No one except for Mara herself. Seeking help from the powerful Dust Wife, Mara is offered the tools to kill a prince if she complete 3 impossible tasks. But as the way of tales of princes, witches, and daughters, the impossible is only the beginning. On her quest, Mara is joined by a grave witch, a reluctant fairy godmother, a strapping former knight, and a chicken possessed by a demon, as well as her dog made out of bones. Together, they intend to kill the king to save the queen.
Fun.
Yeah.
So what did you like?
So I love Kingfisher. I love her world building. It always feels very well thought out, well rounded. Like there's just like her magic system is always just, I always say just, I'm sorry. I just get really, really excited. I need to like,
oh, no, yeah. Yeah. It's our girl.
It's our girl. Yeah. I love the way that she handles like religion in her fantasy books too, because I think religion is a important like human thing that happens. Like we have religion, of course, probably other worlds do too. And the fact that like there's so many different gods that are different things or saints, or it's just it's so well done. The Dust Wives are such a clever idea. They are women that are married to the dirt, so to speak. So they care over the dead. Some of the Dust Wives are more powerful than others. Some just, tend to graves and bless the graves. But others can actually speak to the dead, like raise them up. And like if they have a body, their body is brought with them, which is one of the horror elements of the book. Is you do see, for lack of a better word, zombies. The characters I felt like worked very well together. Like the way they interacted, as Kingfisher does, the interactions between the characters are always very realistic, funny, makes sense. The random cleverness that she puts into her stories is just, again, I'm in love with it. For example, I brought my Kindle over to my husband and I was like, please read this line. And it was about this tooth collector collects teeth from various monsters and people and things. And the Dust Wife picks up a tooth and he sells her, that's a Cyclops tooth. You won't find another one like that. And she says, I will if I check an elephant's mouth, which is so clever because there's a theory that Cyclopses were designed, or the mythology came around after seeing an elephant skull instead of knowing that it was an elephant at one point, like it has obviously the hole for the trunk. So it looks like a cyclops.
Like a big socket. Yeah.
Yeah. Who
That's
thinks
so
of
rad.
this?
She's a freaking genius.
I know. And there's another line too that blew me away. It was talking to each other in stone language, saying all the words they had been saving up until the next time a human walked across them. So instead of just saying like the rocks clacked or whatever, she actually came up with a line explaining the noise behind rocks clattering when you walk over them. Like, who thinks of this?
Some people are just like a genius.
She's so clever.
She's like very poetic.
Yeah.
But it's so good. Not in a pretentious way.
Exactly.
Or anything like that. God, she's funny too. God,
I know.
I laugh out loud reading some of the things in her book sometimes. We just gush over her.
I know. This is just a Kingfisher.
Oh my god. I know, right? She's amazing. Sorry, go ahead.
The horror elements too, like she does so well, like just the creepy unsettling feelings that you get.
Yes.
The Dust Wife can raise the dead, and like the description of the dead thing, I don't want to give it away, was just again just
everything.
And then the tooth puller at the goblin market was horrific, and the description of it being done, because she gets a tooth pulled, but the way it happens is insane.
She's so amazing.
And then there's like a tomb, like they have to go into the king's tomb to figure out, like, to solve the case or whatever. It's not a case, it's not a mystery, it's just
I know what you're saying though. Yeah.
That also because it's in a tomb, so there's unsettling things that happen in the tomb too. Oh, so good.
Yeah, she's very atmospheric. Like, I don't know. I love the way she writes.
Yeah, I love her way of horror. Again, like I don't necessarily like shock horror. I do love just unsettling things.
Well, we've also talked about how, like, I've read a lot. I mean, not as many as you, but I've read a lot of books recently, and her books stick out. Little things from it. I don't know how she does it, but we always go back and forth and like send each other pictures and memes of like willows and ladybugs and roses. Like, I'm never gonna look at this stuff the same again. And every time I was doing I was making dinner one night and I pulled out my romaine lettuce and there's a ladybug. I'm like, oh my god. So like I have to take a picture, send it to Beck, like, look, and she's like, they're everywhere. So like it's funny because there's little quirks in a lot of books, but they don't stick with me like hers do for whatever reason. She's just so great. And I think it's because I fall in love with her characters because they're very realistic. They're not perfect. They're not, you know, and I just love the way she just ties everything together beautifully with a little bow, and I love her.
The main character of this book is also in her 30s, which I also appreciate because I don't like stories about kids doing these big grand things because it doesn't. I remember being 20 and I couldn't wrap my head around being able to do these things, I guess.
Right. Yeah, no, that makes sense.
Yeah, so there's only one thing that I really did not particularly enjoy about this book, and it could just be a me thing. Like I could have just completely like missed the cue on this one, but the Blighted Lands really confused me. It seemed like it just happened and then it was over. Like I thought it would be more like more of the book, but it was just kind of over. But like other than that, like it has all the good Kingfisher things, the good characters, the world building, the atmosphere, the funny, the unsettling horror elements. The day that I do not recommend T. Kingfisher is the day that I die. So yes, read this book.
Yeah, so good.
I would say 4.5 to 5 stars. Again, Neil Gaiman really messed with my rating this month. There's no spice, but there is a romance storyline a little bit. It's not like overwhelming, like it doesn't distract from the story at all, but there is part of it. No eye rolls either, because she could never.
She won't.
Yeah.
So the last book I believe I'm going to talk about, That Sick Love by Jescie Hall. It was 496 pages, a dark romance, trigger warnings for stalking, obsession, religious trauma, and torture. So the synopsis is Brianna is a young woman who has been raised in a strict religious community that condemns sexual immorality and sin. She is unaware of the dark secrets and corruption that lurk behind the facade of her faith. Arrow, a mysterious and unhinged man who has been hired to kill Brianna's father, the leader of the community. However, he becomes obsessed with Brianna and decides to stalk her and expose her to the dark and twisted desires that she has been suppressing. So,
what you liked?
Yeah, I like the story. It's very spicy. I like the story. There was plot. Okay, so lots of twists and turns. So I put pretty good born with plot, if you ask me. So yes, it's very spicy. But the plot, there was a lot of plot too. It wasn't just like, all sex. And as Beck knows, I am a sucker for masked men. I've read several books with masked men. It's a thing.
Yeah.
I love a good face reveal, and it was so steamy. This one was really good when, like, the mask finally comes off and she sees them, and I mean she wrote that scene exquisite. I will say that scene very good. I liked that scene. So the girl was naive as fuck, like, right? They always but with her, because of how she was brought up, it kind of made sense for her character. Because she was very, like, sheltered, and it was pretty, I mean, it was a cult. I mean, it was religious, it's Catholic. No, this was cult-like, right? How she was brought up. So the fact that she was really naive and, like, dumb with certain things, it was kind of like, okay, well, it wasn't overboard to where she's like a ditz. It was understandable. Like, she doesn't know any better, right? So some of it I did understand. What I didn't like is she wasn't as scared as she should have been. I mean, she has a stalker, and the way she's been brought up, and I felt like she was a little too, she wasn't like, oh yeah, but she was way too chill about it, in my opinion. Like, I don't know, that was kind of odd. I feel like she should have been a lot more
this is
freaked
just a thing
out.
that's happening.
Yeah, like, oh, I told one person about it. Trash can with notes written on Bible paper. Weird.
Does she know Adeline?
Oh yeah, I know. There is a similarity there. Let me tell you something. These books are not the same. Okay. So, and I'm not like, they're not the same. There is roses though. But people compare these two. I thought it was going to be better than Haunting Adeline, and he ain't.
This ain't no Zane.
This isn't Zane. They're two different books. I mean, I really liked Haunting Adeline, and that may be because I read that before this. Maybe if I would have read this before that, I'd prefer this. You know what I'm saying? I think it's just kind of I could separate the two. I wasn't expecting to, like, I'm not going to compare stalkers. Like, which stalkers? I mean, yes, it's a fantasy and it's fun to read, but like
enough.
Yeah, like, what is Daddy Zaid? Okay, cool.
Got
whatever. It. Yeah. I like this book though. I also even with the twists and turns, it was a little predictable. I could kind of see it again. I look for it, but I would say in my brain, like, I bet this is gonna happen, and then it would, and I was like, yep. So, but not that it was bad. It was just I can kind of see it coming. Some people may not, but I could. There is hints. So the most annoying part about the whole book was she goes missing for a week because her and Arrow go, like, hide out in this cabin, and, like, no one's looking for her. Like, she's in this community. I don't know. That was a little much. And then he, like, trains her, and she becomes this fucking badass.
Trains her like
to defend herself. Okay. Yeah, kind of. And she becomes like this badass, and you're just like, no,
within a week?
No.
Cool.
Yeah. 7 days. It's like The Ring. But no, it was a little that annoyed me. So the spice was there. Oh, sorry. Do I recommend it? Sure. The spice was there. It was very spicy. Plot was good. It's just that 1 week in the cabin. I probably would have given it like 4 stars because the spice was really good and that face reveal was everything. But that that set set the book back a little bit for me. I enjoyed it. I read it quick. It kept my attention. If you're a deeply religious person, probably not for you.
Well, I wouldn't
'Cause
think they
it
would be reading it in the first place anyway.
No, it's very it doesn't have a lot of good things to say
About
religion. Even beyond it just being a cult, it doesn't have much great things to say about
religion as a whole.
Catholicism. Yeah, especially with Catholicism. So, uh yeah. The triggers are real. There's sexual assault and sexual assault to a minor.
Oh.
That's in this book too. It's not, maybe it wasn't listed, but that's a big one. So priests and things, right? So yeah, that's in there.
Fun.
Yeah, so there's some heavy stuff in it. So I gave it 3.5 stars because it was good. I did enjoy it. I think I gave it such a high rating because I really love the spice, but then I had to draw it back a bit because the cabin shit. 5 spice. It's extremely spicy and 2 eye rolls.
Do you have anything else this month? Did you want to talk about anything else?
Mm-mm.
Well, thank you so much for listening to this episode of SNB Monthly. We hope you enjoyed our chat this month. Next month, we will be reading Still Beating based on the poll results that we got through Spotify and Facebook. Pick that up if you want to read along. It is part of the Kindle Unlimited program. So if you have Kindle Unlimited, it is there. Stephanie, what are you currently reading?
I am currently reading a dark romance,
of course,
called Credence by Penelope Douglas. But I do want to say, I am planning on reading a book called The Serpent and the Wings of Night, which is clearly a fantasy romance, and I am really excited about it.
I think that's on my TBR too.
Girl, it's on mine. I read about it. It's one, I think, 3 as a 4.44 rating on Goodreads, which is pretty high. I'm excited to read it, so we'll talk about that more later. And what are you reading?
I am currently reading. It is called Puck Me Secretly. It is part of the Vancouver Wolves trilogy. This is a recommendation from my sister Melissa, my sister by birth, which is so funny because I just appreciate that we have this thing to connect with. And it's always nice to have a preview of what we're reading next month. So if you do want to read either of those with us, you sure can. Also, with some helpful feedback, the website will now include pictures, rating, and etc. on it. So if you missed any of our ratings, because sometimes we do get on tangents, all the info will be on there. But keep in mind that I am still learning how to make an aesthetic, so bear with me. I'm trying my best.
You're doing good.
Thanks.
I'm just sitting here like, hey, I'll talk once a month. Beck is doing a lot, but twice a month now.
Yeah.
Beck's doing a lot behind the scenes. She's making all the things, and I'm just gonna like some money. Here, thanks.
I do enjoy
she's
doing
super
it, though.
talented and crafty, and I'm lucky for everything she's doing. So thank you. You're awesome.
You're very welcome.
And again, if you'd like to win a shirt and sticker pack, check out the contest posted on our socials. We can now be found on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, and we're going to do our best to post there a couple times a week if you're interested.
If there's anything that you want us to post, if there's anything you would like to see from us, please let us know. We want to do our best to give you something that you want to listen to. This is kind of something that we started because we wanted to have fun with it, but we also want to have some insight as to what other people want to listen to. With that being said, thank you so much. If you're a fan of the podcast and want to show us some love, please subscribe, share, and let everyone know.
That's all for today. I'm your co-host, Stephanie.
And I'm Beck.
And this has been SMB Monthly. See you in the next chapter.